Today's learning target is I can construct and analyze circle graphs. Today we're going to be asked to analyze information in circle graphs. So here's an example of where we might do that. It says the circle graph at the right shows how the U.S. government spends its money. Suppose the U.S. government's budget this year is $10 billion. How much more money is spent on health than defense? Now, you'll notice I underlined my key information I needed, and I also underlined this how much more, because I know anytime I see how much more, it means subtraction. So I want to find how much more is spent on health than on defense. So the first thing I need to figure out is how much is spent on each of these, because what it does in my circle graph is it tells me the percent of money, but it doesn't tell me how much, so I'm going to need to figure that out. So I'll start with how much is spent on health. So I know that health is 22, right over here it says it's 22%. So I know as a decimal, 22% is 22 hundredths. So I want to do 22% of 10 billion. Okay. Now you notice I wrote the word billion instead of including all the zeros. It's going to make it a lot faster. So that's something that I would suggest you do too in a problem like this. Now, if I take 10 times 22 hundredths, and I multiply that, I know that gives me 2.2 billion. And I'm actually going to write out the word. Now when I do the same thing for defense, I get the defense amount is 2 billion. Now I'm going to need to subtract 2.2 billion minus 2 billion. So now over here I've done my 2.2 billion minus 2 billion, and I can see that equals 0.2 billion, and I wrote it out over here so you can see what it would look like in long number form. But if you can figure out 0.2 billion, if you think of it like this, so 0.2 billion, if I were to move the decimal one place to the right, right, so here's my billions, one place to the right would give me 100 millions. So when I have 0.2 billions, that's really 200 million. Okay, so that would be my answer there, and it's in dollars is my label. So how much more money is spent on health than defense would be $200 million. When I'm asked to construct circle graphs, when I'm dealing with numbers that are easy to figure out in fractions, like half, like in this graph we see here, we've got pepperoni, and half of the favorite pizza toppings were pepperoni here. And I can see 25% or 1/4 were cheese, and then supreme and sausage filled out the last 25%, with sausage being 5% more. When they're easy, nice, easy fractions to work with like that, creating a circle graph is pretty simple. Here's another one. Now what I don't like about this one is there's no title. This one has a title. I assume this is favorite kind of movie, but I don't know because it doesn't give me a title. But the reason I show you this one is it shows comedy was half here, and again action 25%, and these two, the drama and the romance, were split with that last 25%, with drama being slightly more. The favorite fruit graph down here is an example of a circle graph where the numbers aren't quite as easy to work with. We can see here we have a 35% for the apples, 25%, that's not a bad one because that's 1/4 for cherries, but then 20%, which would be 1/5 for grapes, and I get 3%, 7%, 10%. That's more difficult to construct. So what I'm going to be showing you is how do we use a computer program to create a circle graph when my numbers that I'm working with aren't easy to work with. So that will happen in class, and I'll be showing you how do we use a program to create a circle graph that's more complex.